coming to you today on the way to the airport. So we'll be in the sun, have good lighting, and then go into the tunnel in a bit. Let's see how you can see better this way. The beautiful mountains of Colombia. So I want to tell a story from 13 or 14 years ago. And I was at this retreat. I won't say the name because they've asked us to keep it private unless you've went to it. And this is a long time ago. I'm almost 41 now. At the time, I was 27, 28. And I didn't know. Everyone knew, but me, something very unique about this retreat. We did this call beforehand, and they're talking about this stuff, and I thought guys were just saying goofy shit. By the way, I got some methylene blue mouth. I thought guys were just saying goofy shit for this retreat. And the guys were like, yeah, we're going to like get in the woods and get naked. Excuse me. And chant. And I was thinking this was just goofiness, right? And I was making jokes like, yeah, we're going to like shoot machine guns out of a helicopter and wrestle a bear or whatever I said. So you get to this retreat, and it's, I think, 3 days long. And on the second day, I believe it was, we go into a church. It's at some retreat center where there's a church, you know, there's a place to eat, there's this, there's that. And I thought this was kind of creepy. But then they have us take off our clothes in a church. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. And then we go, that was kind of weird just because it was a church and certain connotations with the Catholic Church, a bit weird. But what was great about it is then we go into this main room and we're all sitting there totally naked. There's probably 75 guys. There's 2 or 3 guys that refuse to take their clothes off. And some of the facilitators, the leaders, they start sharing. And I couldn't believe how uncomfortable it was for guys, including myself. I later couldn't believe how comfortable I was with myself after that moment. Again, this is like whatever I said 13, 14 years ago. I felt really different in my own body after that. Like, I live on the 8th floor of an apartment building now. I'm getting ready for the airport this morning. I'm walking around naked. Maybe it's too much for some people. I feel fine doing it. I feel free. And it's kind of a pretty normal thing. Like, maybe if you've never done it, I'm not saying you need to do it, but it is a very liberating thing, being naked, being yourself. If you've never went to a naked beach before, going to a naked beach, yeah, highly recommended. But what was more than just being naked at this retreat is as the guys started to share stuff, it really opened my mind and my eyes, my heart. I remember one guy, guys talking about how they were sexually abused. That was something I didn't know, that I had that experience as a little kid from a priest, from my uncle, from babysitter. I had blocked those things out. So I think that was kind of helping maybe to wake some of those things up in me, or to remember, which came many years later, almost a decade later. Another guy shared, and I believe he was gay, that he raped his brother. And he was really ashamed about it. I mean, for me, whether I'm sure as you could be judging him or going like, what a motherfucker, or these things that come up in us as human beings, especially in the days of in the recent days of the Epstein stuff. And it's not for me to say, obviously, it's behavior that's very wrong and unacceptable. And sometimes when we look a layer behind that guy who did that, probably someone did the same thing to him when he was 5 years old. It doesn't make it okay. But the point being that so many guys had fears, limitations, issues, sexual hurt, sexual shame. One of the guys there, this super big, jacked, huge muscle guy, he got testicular cancer and had to have both his testicles, both his balls removed. And he's telling this story, and I'm just thinking, man, that had to be fucking hard. And he hated how it looked or felt, again, 13, 14 years ago. He actually got implants, so it would look more natural. Kind of like same thing with women when they have breast cancer and they get implants. I'd never heard of it for guys, and I'm thinking this guy's the biggest guy there. He's jacked, tons of muscle, but there's this other part of him where he's this vulnerable guy that he's went through that, and it's made him feel insecure, and he's lifted more weights because of it, or whatever it was from my memory. And part of the reason I wanted to make this video today is that you're not alone. As guys, we have a lot of sexual shame and shame about where we think we should be at and different things operating in the background. Sometimes that can actually drive us to become really successful, really wealthy, get a bunch of girls, have the cars, have the house, have the watch collection, whatever. And what's underneath it is a large amount of pain. It can be actually running on pain. And now it just popped into my mind again. There was another guy there, and I remember him telling some story. Maybe it was at that men's group, or it was around that time. And he said, it was something like, I was at the mall and I thought this girl was cute, and I saw her from behind and noticed her, and then I realized she was probably 17, and I was mad at myself, and I was like, what the fuck? Now, to be fair, this guy didn't talk to this girl. This guy didn't acknowledge the girl after that. This guy didn't try to date that girl. He had a human body response of going, oh, that's a beautiful woman. But then beat himself up of like, bro, what the fuck is wrong with you? He didn't do anything wrong, even if it does sound a little gross, depending on your filters. He was honorable in it and said, oh, that's like a kid? Oh, I'm not going to look at that girl, or I wouldn't. But he was so hard on himself internally. When we carry sexual shame in our minds, in our body, we transfer it to the women we love, especially. What do I mean by that? The penis is not a receptive thing, it's a giver. So it's literally giving to the woman. The energy, the emotion, the connection, the armor that we have created and built and held on our bodies, and it can almost be like layers of stuff that you can't see. And as you start to do conscious de-armoring, you can feel like, oh, bro, I have some fucking energy on me, or some emotional stuff. Like, I feel so different. We carry this stuff. We can carry our pain. A lot of times guys can be dismissive to this, and we think, no, I've just heard about that with women, and women hold the energy from sexual partners, or they hold this, or they hold that, or you can look into these things about DNA, but as guys, we do too. And if we haven't integrated, understood, healed, or better said, alchemized that pain and that shame, especially sexual shame, we will give it to the women we love the most. A funny thing about being a dude is a lot of times we're not going to talk about shit. I've grown into talking about stuff. Part of it was my nature, part of it was learned. But a lot of times, we're just not gonna. And I kind of smirk at that, because it's how different we are. Women are gonna fucking talk to somebody, even if they don't want to. Their hormones and their cycle will force emotion to come out, and someone's gonna go, are you okay? Okay, I gotta tell you. That's not the male experience, with rare exception. Unless you got a low testosterone dude with a bunch of feminine energy. He still doesn't have a menstrual cycle, but he'll lean a little more that way. As a guy, we need to process stuff. We need to alchemize stuff. Alchemize stuff meaning taking a shitty experience, having what appears to be a piece of dog shit from the universe, without realizing that even though it is stinky and shitty, inside of that, there's gold. That's just shit-colored wrapping paper. That's alchemizing what's truly there, turning shit into gold. as guys, first of all, you're not alone. It's common to have shame and sexual shame. If you don't do something about it, it will continue to fester, and you can build an entire life, an entire identity on it. And when you live a life of shame, what we don't realize and what's really scary, we live a life that's not free. We're not internally free in our emotions, in our mind, in our heart. You can have $20 million, you can have 3 Lamborghinis, you can have the newest watch collection. Inside how we feel, we're not free. I was just thinking of someone recently, they popped on my mind, they were making all this money, and then it was getting a helicopter, and then a Mercedes, and next to a Ferrari or a Maserati, and then it was like, well, now I got to get a jet, and then I got to get a bigger jet. And looking back, and this is many years ago, this person, I didn't know it at the time, was a drug addict, making all this money, but they weren't free inside, but they had the veneer of the results or success with virtually no fulfillment. Thanks for tuning in. From a taxi in Medellin off to Miami. See you guys soon.